7th canto. So if you have time tomorrow or later today, if before the festival, if you are able to read the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that will be very nice. There are 10 chapters in the 7th canto that describe the glorious pastimes of Lord Narasimha Dev's appearance. So 10 chapters. It's not a small amount of coverage. Almost practically the entire 7th canto, that is, or more than half of the 7th canto, is dedicated to this particular topic. So it's a very important topic in Srimad Bhagavatam. And a lot of details have been given. So let us start. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'm showing you this picture. Very interestingly, the pastimes of Lord Narasimha Dev start with something about this picture. Isn't that strange? Is it you are able to see, bro? You have got,
Yes, we can see, bro.
Okay. So there seems to be some kind of a decorated person. He's a judge. He's seated on a table. And what could be the relationship between the appearance day, the glories, the pastimes of Prahlada Maharaj, the glories of Lord Narasimha Dev Bhagavan, the atrocities committed by Hiranyakashipu, and this picture, this image of a judge. So very interestingly, the pastimes actually starts off with this reference to this. So let us see what that is. So what happens is, there is a narration in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about a Asura by the name Vritrasura. And this person, although he is fighting on the side of the Asuras and fighting against the demigods, Devatas, and particularly fighting against the Indra, actually he's a devotee. Vritrasura is a great devotee. And Indra becomes very much anxious about his position because he is about to be defeated. And then the Supreme Lord provides a formula to defeat Vritrasura. And it is seen in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that how Vritrasura comes out to be a hero in that defeat. And his glories have been described in detail on how at one point Indra was about to lose hope because Vritrasura was so powerful. He could not be defeated. In spite of getting the benediction from the Supreme Lord himself, Indra lost hope. At a point when Vritrasura threw an object at Indra, causing him to lose his weapon fell down. And Indra was so ashamed that I cannot even hold my weapon. And he was completely morose and he was going to give up his battle. At that time, Vritrasura in fact counseled him, saying that, look, you have the Supreme Lord on your side. Get up and fight. Don't lose hope. Look at me. At that point, Vritrasura's one hand had been cut off. And he was practically weaponless because whatever weapon was remaining, he had hurled at Indra and causing Indra to lose his weapon. So now Vritrasura was profusely bleeding. But even then Indra had lost hope. And Dhritarashtra says, look, I have not lost hope. I am fighting, but you should also not lose hope. And then Indra is sincerely appreciates the qualities of Dhritarashtra and begins to fight. And after that, Indra he kills Dhritarashtra. It is actually said in the scriptures that Dhritarashtra is not actually killed by Indra, but there is a point at which Dhritarashtra swallows Indra. And thinking that now Indra is finished, Dhritarashtra, by his own yoga siddhis, he prepares to leave his body. And at that point, Indra, because he is protected by the benediction from the Supreme Lord, he comes out of his body, out of Dhritarashtra's body, and then continues his destruction of the body. At that point, Dhritarashtra has already left the body. So there is a very detailed narration of this pastime. And after hearing this pastime, Parikshit Maharaj asks one very important, pertinent question, that this Dhritarashtra seems to be a devotee. And yes, he is fighting on the sides of the Asuras. And there are these Devatas and Asuras, they're always fighting. Why is it that the Supreme Lord is taking the side of Indra and fighting against Dhritarashtra? Not literally fighting, but he has taken the side of Indra, of the Devatas. Why has he done this? And that question leads to a series of answers, which actually leads to narration of the pastime of Hiranyakashipu. So what is the answer that was given? So first, this question itself, let us just deliberate. So what is the exact question that Parikshit Maharaj asks? So he says that Lord himself is a reservoir of all pleasure. He does not need to, this is Parikshit Maharaj's question. He does not require to side with any particular person. He does not care that Indra loses, nor is he bothered that Dhritarashtra is going to win. He already full of pleasure. So why is it that he is, what interest does he have in siding with the Devatas? And Parikshit Maharaj knows the transcendental position of the Lord. This is 6th canto by now. So he definitely knows this. 7th canto, beginning actually. 7th canto, the first verse, like this is starting the question. And at this point, there is this verse that we should see from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyaha na bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. Samoham sarva bhuteshu means I am equal, I am neutral, I am equal to all the living entities. I am impartial. Name dveshyo, I have no enemies. Asti na priyaha, nor do I have any friends. So I am fair to all the living entities. I do not have any enemies, nor do I have any friends. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. But somebody who's worshipping me with faith and devotion, they are always with me and I remain a friend to them. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend in me, and I am also a friend to them. Prabhupada gives a wonderful further explanation in the purport. The Lord claims that every living entity in whatever form is his son. And so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on a rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives specific attention. So a cloud gives rain everywhere. In the ocean also it rains. There is nothing that comes there. There is no benefit. Why should the ocean receive a rainfall? It is not that there is some grassland or something that's going to grow as a result of that. But cloud gives rainfall in ocean also. Cloud gives rainfall in the cloud also. In the rock also, and in fertile land also. So the cloud is fair to all areas. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is fair to all areas. So this being the case, why is he siding with the Devatas? Further, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Na cha mam thani karmani nibadnati dhananjaya udasinavad asinam asaktam teshu karmasu. So here, Udasinavad, this phrase Udasinavat means seated asina. Asina means seated. Seated as if neutral. Vat means like. Seated as if neutral. Udasina vad asinam. Ashaktam teshu karmashu. So Krishna is saying that, oh Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. So Krishna is saying that actually, I am not engaged myself in any material activities. And whatever is happening, I am neutral. I'm not part of that. So this brings us to, and yes, Prabhupada gives us very important clarification. The living entities take the different forms in the various species of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord doesn't interfere with them. So sometimes a living entity may be taking the form of the body of human, sometimes in animal species, sometimes worms, sometimes in the aquatics. So all of these are happening according to our own past deeds. But the Lord is not interfering. If I want to be like a horse, I'll be born like a horse. If I want to be born as an Asura, I'm born as an Asura. If I want to be austere and simple, then I'm born as a Devata. And then I perform activities according to my the modes of material nature that I'm acquiring. But the Lord is not interfering with my free will. That's what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. And that brings us to this reference of the judge. So this neutrality that the Lord is conveying, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, is like a judge who is not responsible for the crimes of the criminals. So if there is a criminal who comes, or somebody is produced before the judge, let us say somebody is accused, and sometimes he is actually not a criminal, he's just been falsely accused. In that case, the judge studies the evidence as presented and he lets him go. In another case, another person comes and he's charged with the same crime, but the judge finds him guilty and he sentences him to prison, or even more severe punishment can be given. But is the judge responsible for the acts of the criminal? Judge is not responsible. He is simply enforcing the law. It is by the choice of the individual that a person is either law-abiding or a criminal. So this is the first point of today's session. The Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. He is equal to everyone. He is not partial to anyone. So then, what is it? Let us go a little deeper into what is it that makes certain persons appear to be benefiting from the Lord's protection, whereas some other persons do not appear to be benefiting. Let us go one level deeper. So it is described in Bhagavatam. This is Sukadeva Goswami explaining in answer to Parikshit Maharaja's question, that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he creates different types of bodies. He offers a particular type of body to each living entity according to his own character and his own past fruitive activities. And then the Lord revives all the qualities of material nature, such as Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna. And then the Lord, what he does is, as Paramatma, he enters into each body and influences these qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. So if somebody is, for example, and then not only that, but he also creates the time factor. So not only the Lord creates these gunas, the Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna, and then he enlivens those gunas and produces results based on the activities that the way the living entity chooses to associate with these gunas. But in order to get that, or in order to facilitate that interaction, he creates the time factor. So this time factor, what it does is that it allows the material energy and the living entity to act within the limits of time. For example, we have studied before how there are different stages of karma. That is Kuta and Phalonmukha. What were the other stages? Prarabdha, and there is one more in between. 4 stages of karma we have studied. So these results of one's fruitive activities, they are playing out on the time scale. So the Lord has also created time. So he is creating the modes of material nature And for the living entity to be able to enjoy or interact with the modes of material nature, he also creates time. Now, there is one very surprising quality about time, which you may not have expected. This quality of time is that the time factor enhances sattva guna. It enhances sattva guna. The time factor, the way it's been designed, the way time has been designed is that it favors sattva guna and it acts against tamoguna. So if there is because this is how the material world is designed. The Lord wants the living entities to gradually rise up from tamoguna to sattva guna. For example, let us say there is a living entity that has a desire to enjoy in a very abominable way. Then that living entity is born as an animal. But that is in tamoguna. So in that life form, the time factor is acting against that living entity, and quickly the living entity is destroyed. And then subsequently, that the tamoguna aspect is gradually reduced as that living entity progresses through various stages of life, various species of life, until the living entity comes to the human being form. In the human form of life, the living entity has a choice. You can either associate more with sattva-guna or associate with tamoguna. If you associate with sattva-guna, then naturally the time axis, it favors you more. And if you're choosing to associate with tamoguna, then the time factor, it goes against you. This is the way it has been designed. So this is Parikshit, this is Sukadeva Goswami further explaining that actually the Supreme Lord himself is like a judge. He's neutral, he's not influencing, he's not siding with Indra, he's not siding with Asura, but actually he's just neutral. And then he gives a wonderful example from Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, there was a scene where during the Rajasuya Yajna, there was a pastime where Shishupala, he is blaspheming the Lord in very bad ways, Shishupala and his brother Dantavakra. And Krishna tolerates it for a long time. And after that, at certain point, suddenly Krishna beheads with Sudarshana Chakra, he beheads Shishupala. And Yudhishthir Maharaj sees that right at that point, there is this bright light that is coming out of Shishupala. His spirit soul is merging into Krishna. And also, Dantavakra was also killed at the same time. And his soul also is going out of his body and it is merging into Krishna. This was witnessed by Yudhishthir Maharaj personally. And he's wonderstruck that this person, abominable person, who has been blaspheming the Lord from the time of his birth, how he got this highest benefit of merging with the Lord. And he asked, he gave so many other examples where in the past there are the example of King Vena. King Vena was a very bad king, and he was committing so many atrocities. But in the end, he was cursed by the Brahmanas in his kingdom to go to hellish planets. It is not that at the end of his life he got merged into the Lord or anything like that. He did not get any such prapti. But here Shishupala is getting this prapti. What is happening? How did this happen? How is it that Shishupala and Dantavakra got this highest benediction of merging into the Lord? So at that time, he asked this question to Narada Muni. So he asks Narada Muni, my dear Narada Muni, how is this happening? It's so wonderful. So, so that time Narada Muni replies, and that reply of Narada Muni and the conversation that happens between Narada Muni and King Yudhishthir actually forms the bulk of the pastimes of Narasimha Dev and Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada in Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the context of in which the conversation is happening, and this is the context in which the pastime of Narasimha Dev Bhagwan is being related in Bhagavatam. So I thought I should share this with you. Now, what is Narada Muni explaining? Let us just go one step further. So Narada Muni says that actually there is a very important principle here. Why is it that Shishupala was able to get this benediction? And in fact, even Kamsa got this same benediction. He became one with the Lord. He got this or merging into the Lord. So what is special about them that is not present in Vena? So Narada Muni says that actually the principle is that when one is focusing one's attention on the Lord and the Lord alone, then he gets liberated. Whereas King Vena was not focusing his attention on the Lord. He was simply mischievous. He was simply disobeying the laws of nature. But he had no attention on the Lord. Whereas Shishupala was constantly blaspheming the Lord and he was envious of the Lord. So because of his envy being directed at the Lord in a very, very focused way, and similarly for Kamsa, that his envy was directed at the Lord in a very, very focused way, therefore he got the liberation. But of course, superior are those who are like Pandavas, who are able to achieve perfection by their affection for the Lord. How gopis, through their love for the Lord, they were able to get the perfection. And then others, Narada Muni gives his own example and says, through our devotional service, we obtain the mercy of the Lord. So somehow or the other, if one can consider the form of Krishna very seriously, if one can remember the form of Krishna in our mind, then by any of these processes, if one is able to pay the attention, whether favorably or unfavorably, then one can be liberated. But of course, it has been described to us by Rupa Goswami that one must favorably discharge devotional service. This is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. But at this point, Narada Muni is explaining why is it that Shishupala and Dantavakra got this. And then he gives this further background, how Shishupala and Dantavakra were originally Jaya and Vijaya. They were residents of Vaikuntha-loka, and they were the doorkeepers of Lord Vishnu. And while they were keeping the doors there in Vaikuntha-loka, there are the four Kumaras, the sons of Brahma. Sons of Brahma, the four Kumaras, they are very small. They appear to be like a small children. They appear to be naked, although they are actually senior to many other children of Brahma. But they appear like very small children. And when they come to Vaikuntha-loka, they are able to travel to all the different planetary systems. And one day, by chance, they come to Vaikuntha-loka. And at that time, they are prevented from entering the Vaikuntha-loka by Jaya and Vijaya. And the Kumaras, they become angry at being prevented from discharging devotional service. They are very eager to meet the Lord. And when somebody is preventing them from discharging their devotional service, they become very angry with Jaya and Vijaya, and they are cursed to fall down to the material world. But then they also give some relief to Jaya and Vijaya, and they tell them that after 3 lifetimes, they will be born as enemies of the Lord for 3 lifetimes. And once these 3 lifetimes are over, they will come back to their original position in Vaikuntha. So this background is given by Narada Muni, Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Narada Muni says that, so formerly, this Shishupala and Dantavakra were actually Jaya and Vijaya. And when they fell down, they actually became Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. And subsequently, they were Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And then in Dwapara Yuga, they have appeared as Shishupala and Dantavakra. So at that point, Yudhishthira is wondering that, I would like to know, tell me more about Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. In what way did they appear inimical? Because they have been cursed to come down in 3 lifetimes and be the enemy of the Lord. And in each lifetime, the Lord personally comes and delivers them. And after the end of 3 lives, they are supposed to go back to Vaikuntha. So I want to know more about Hiranyakashipu. In what way was he inimical to the Lord? Can you please describe? And then the answers to that question forms the further description of Hiranyakashipu's pastimes, Hiranyakashipu's atrocities, and the Lord's pastimes. And so I'm going to skip through this. And this brings us to the second point of today's session, which is how Hiranyakashipu ruled as the king of the demons. So what happened was, when Hiranyakashipu's brother, Hiranyaksha, he was killed by the Lord. So first, Hiranyaksha, what does he do? He takes the earth out of its orbit and makes the earth fall down into the Garbhodaka ocean. And the Lord assumes the form of a boar, Varaha incarnation, and rescues Mother Earth, puts back the earth in the orbit, and then he challenges Hiranyaksha to a fight. And after a very intense fight, Hiranyaksha is killed. So when Hiranyaksha is killed, Hiranyakashipu gets very angry. And in his anger, he is so angry that the entire sky becomes smoky. There is this great anger coming out of him that's making the entire atmosphere tremble. And then he takes up his favorite weapon. Does anybody know what is the favorite weapon of Hiranyakashipu? Anyone online? He had a favorite weapon.
फरसा प्रभु.
Huh?
फरसा, वो मतलब राउंडेड शेप.
Farsa.
यस, फरसा प्रभु. फरसा मतलब हिंदी में इसको फरसा बोलते हैं.
Parsha, like Parshuram.
यस प्रभु जी.
Parsha, okay. That's like an axe.
Yes.
Well, in anybody else? Any other guesses? Gada. So in Bhagavatam, it's described that his favorite weapon is a trident, Trishul. Trident. We don't see that many in the drawings. Usually Gada is there. But that scene is different when he takes up his Gada. By the time he's already lost his trident, I think. When we see that there's an art work in which he's attacking Narasimha Dev Bhagwan with his Gada. But at this point, his weapon is his chosen weapon, his favorite weapon actually is trident, Trishul. And so he takes up his weapon and then he calls all his associate assembled, gets all the other demon followers. And then he says that, look, all these devatas and all my enemies, they've all combined and ganged up against my brother Hiranyaksha. And although Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both the devatas and the danavas, the asuras, but this time, being very much sincerely being worshipped by the devatas, he has taken their side and helped them to kill Hiranyaksha. So he says that actually Lord Vishnu is supposed to be neutral, but he has come under the influence of the worship of the devatas and he has taken their side. And he has given up his natural tendency of equality. Samoham sarva bhuteshu. He has forgotten that. And now he has come under Maya. He is accusing the Lord that he has come under Maya. Look, under Maya he has taken the form of a boar just to please his devotees, the devatas. And just as a restless child leans, let us say there's a small child and there are some, let us say cousins, older cousins are fighting among themselves. One cousin who's a little bit better at talking might come and tell the child, oh, why don't you come to my side? And then the child will go to that side. The child has no idea whether it is right side or wrong side. So like that, Hiranyakashipu is accusing Lord Vishnu of being a restless child of no intelligence at all. He has just randomly taken the side of devatas instead of taking my side or remaining neutral. Why he has done like this? So now I'm going to take this trident and I'm going to kill Lord Vishnu. And then I will drink that blood from Lord Vishnu. And thus I will become peaceful and my brother also will attain peace. Like this, he takes an oath of killing Lord Vishnu and drinking his blood. So Prabhupada remarks in the purport that this shows that generally speaking, the demoniac people, they are meat eaters and blood suckers. So that is how he is projecting. It is showing that Hiranyaksha is actually very much a person who enjoys. In fact, it is said, Hiranyakashipu's exact line is, that with the profuse blood from his body, I shall please my brother Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of sucking blood. Imagine what kind of people we are dealing with here. So Hiranyaksha was very fond of sucking blood, and now Hiranyakashipu, who probably was not so fond of it, but he's saying that to please him, I'm going to do it now. And once Lord Vishnu is killed, all the devatas, just like when the root of a tree is cut, all the trees, the branches, the twigs, they all dry away. Similarly, the devatas, they are all subsisting on the root of Vishnu. Therefore, automatically they will die and they will all go away. So in one stroke, I will get victory over all my enemies. This was the grand plan. At least he has got some intelligence. He understands the position of Vishnu as a root. Yatha taror mula nishechanena. But he is inimical. And not only that, but he is giving further instructions to his demoniac followers that when I am busy killing Vishnu, what should you do? You should go down to earth. And on earth, you will find that the Brahminical culture is flourishing and it is being run by Kshatriyas. The administrators are good Kshatriyas. And there is cow protection that is going on. And there is very nice arrangement for agriculture. You should destroy all of that. Destroy everything. Destroy the cows. Go kill the cows. Go kill the protectors of the cows. Go kill the Brahmanas. Go kill any Vedic sacrifices that are happening. Go kill those righteous Kshatriya kings also. So, destroy all those who are studied, even self-study. If somebody is doing Swadhyaya, Vedic study, go kill them. Anybody is taking any vrata, regulative principles. If somebody is following regulative principles, go destroy it. Disturb the regulative principles. If somebody is giving some charity, go and disturb that. Very specific instructions he gives to all his followers. And then he further explains. No, he doesn't just stop here. He gives explanation why he should do that. The basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles. And he is the shelter of all the devatas, the demigods, the great pitas, and the people in general. When the Brahmanas are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform the yagnas. And thus, the demigods, not being appeased by yagna, will automatically die. You see, he's got such an intelligence and using it like this. He knows the importance of these yagnas and exactly is hitting the root. So, anyway, the demons enjoy doing all these things. So they did not require any encouragement. But now they have been given a specific order by Hiranyakashipu. They go and attack with full ferocity. They come down to earth and they go spread themselves and they start attacking all these institutions where Varnashrama Dharma is being followed, Kshatriya Dharma is being followed, the cow protection is being followed. So all of these things where it is happening, he goes and attacks all of that. So they set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, agricultural fields, even forests. Specifically, one more thing that Hiranyakashipu says is cut the trees. The trees, they are life-giving, source of life. So cut the trees. So these demons, they go and start cutting down all trees. And Prabhupada says, particularly, and there is a special mention of mango tree and jackfruit trees, examples have been given. So Prabhupada says that in the Vedic culture, with the exception of the reason of pleasing the Lord, yajñarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So with the exception of directly pleasing the Lord or in the service of the Lord, one should never cut a tree. It is completely directed against the Shastric injunction, especially particularly trees which are, the Shastric injunction refers to fruit-bearing trees. Say a mango tree, jackfruit tree, like this, fruit-bearing trees which are used for food, for good sattvic food. This kind of fruit-bearing trees should never be cut unless it is necessary in the devotional service of the Lord. They also burnt the bridges, all the river dams, whatever river dams are there, they broke all of that. So a lot of this kind of thing they started doing. So then like this, they had been severely creating disturbances. And on the other hand, Hiranyaksha has been killed. Hiranyakashipu is still very, very angry. And his mother, the name of Hiranyakashipu's mother, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they are children of Kashyapa Muni and Diti. His wife is Diti. So Diti is the mother of Hiranyakashipu, and she is extremely sad that her son Hiranyaksha has been killed. And Hiranyakashipu's brother Hiranyaksha, he had a wife. Wife's name is Rushabhanu. It's not Vrishabhanu. The name is Rushabhanu. So Rushabhanu and his mother Diti, they were very morose about this killing. They were very, very sad. They were lamenting greatly. They were crying. And Hiranyakashipu, very, very surprisingly, and actually not surprisingly also, because demoniac people are very diplomatic. It is not that they don't have knowledge. It is simply that they don't act according to that knowledge. So the Asuras, as has been described, is that it is not that they don't know that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They know very well that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is the difference between Asura and Sura? So there is a category of a foolish innocent person or a foolish person. There are these. There's an innocent person, there's a foolish person. Then there is a mischievous person, and there's a devotee. The mischievous person is Asura because he knows that the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the goal of our life, but they deliberately disobey the orders of the Lord. This is the difference between Sura and Asura. So, in disobeying the orders of the Lord, they actually know that I'm not the body. They have the knowledge, but they don't act according to that knowledge. And if you just reflect, this is our position. It is not that we don't know. We have been told an innumerable number of times that we are not the body. And yet, our activities, we are unable to act on that platform. This is a demoniac tendency that is within us. So Hiranyakashipu, with the knowledge that he had, he started pacifying his mother and his sister-in-law in a very logical fashion, telling that, look, we are not the body, we are the eternal spirit soul. Yes, he has passed away. And he gives a very nice example of people that meet at a restaurant. Let's say you're traveling and you feel thirsty, you stop at a nearby restaurant, and there are some 2-3 people along with you. They're going the road, and you'll see sometimes in highway, you pull up in a rest area, and then you go inside, buy a bottle of water in some convenience store, and then you come out. So while you're in the convenience store, you're standing in the line, and you greet the other person. Hey, how are you? Isn't it really hot outside? Yeah, it's really hot. Yeah, let's have this water. Please go ahead in front of me. And you have to say something nice, some pleasantries, and then you pay, get the bottle of water, come outside. Hardly a few minutes. So just like that, in our life, we have all the people around us, family members that we think are eternal, but they are not. They are just like the people we meet at the convenience store. For some time we are with them, and sometimes we separate. So Hiranyakashipu gives this example. And he also gives a historical narration of a kingdom known as Ushinara. It's a state called Ushinara. And in that state, there was a king. And he was a very celebrated king. And one day in battle, he died. He was a Kshatriya. He fought in the battle and then he died. He was killed by his enemies. And when he was dead, he was such a glorious king with a big kingdom. But when he died, it was not a pretty sight. He was attacking his enemy, and his enemy was attacking him. And in that fight, he was having this ghastly facial expression to inject fear into his enemy. That facial expression of ghastliness was frozen on him when he was dead, and his hand was cut off. And then his face was fully dark with all the dust from the battlefield. Just a very gory sight. And then his wives, they came and they started lamenting. They put his head on their lap, and they were just crying and just inconsolable. The time came to remove the body for cremation, but they did not let him go. They were so attached to him that they couldn't let him go. At that time, their cries reached Yamaraja. Yamaraja personally came down in the form of a small boy, and then he gave some knowledge to them that look, you have seen so many people are dying in front of you, and this is a small boy talking to all these queens who are crying. In spite of that, look how you are lamenting. It is very obvious that everyone who comes to this world has to die, and yet the soul, the conditioned soul, which was living entrapped in this body, you have no idea where he came from. Before you met him, what he was, you don't know. After he dies, where he goes, you don't know. And still you're lamenting for this. And then the person that you knew as your husband, that person actually still lying in front of you. His head is still in your lap. What is there to cry? But the real person that you're lamenting has gone away, that he has left us and gone, because they are all crying, oh, you have left us, you're gone, where will we do, who will protect us? And this Yamaraja, in the form of a boy, he says, where has he gone? The body is still there, that's the one you knew. The real person who was gone, you never knew. You never knew who that soul was. So what are you lamenting about? So like this, he counsels them, and then, no, Yamaraja gives one more example. Just see the depth of the story in Bhagavatam. We had Parikshit Maharaj inquiring, then Yudhishthir Maharaj inquires, then Hiranyakashipu's story is going on. Hiranyakashipu is telling a story or counseling his mother, Diti, and his sister-in-law, Rushabhanu. In that, he tells the story of Yamaraja, and now Yamaraja is telling a story. Yamaraja says that once there was a bird, there was a hunter who was trying to hunt a bird. There was a husband and wife bird. The birds were perched on a tree, and hunter kills that woman bird. Actually, he lays a trap with some grains, and the woman bird, girl bird, she bird comes and starts eating that, and gets trapped in the hunter's trap, and the hunter kills the bird. And this husband bird starts greatly lamenting, oh, my wife, my dear beloved life, she's gone. What do I do? My whole life is gone. I have no use of living anymore. And like this, he goes on lamenting. And before you know it, the hunter spots the other bird also and kills the other bird also. So Maharaja says that, look, while you are lamenting for the dead people in your family or extended family, your life is also going away. Your life is not staying still. Very soon you will also be killed. Are you not realizing that? What are you lamenting for? Like this, he tells, and then he consoles those wives of the king of Ushinara. And Hiranyakashipu gives his example to console his mother Diti and his sister-in-law Rushabhanu. And this way, they get consoled. So this brings us to the next topic for today. How Hiranyakashipu plans to become immortal. So let us now study about Hiranyakashipu's plan to become immortal. So Narada Muni is continuing. He is relating the pastime of Narasimha Dev's appearance. Of course, Yudhishthira Maharaj has no idea that that's going to happen yet, because he's narrating the story of how Hiranyakashipu became inimical towards the Lord and how he met his end. This is all Yudhishthira Maharaj knows. Just imagine, we are now in this present age, in the age of Kali, where the religion is all reduced so much, just standing on one leg of truthfulness. And still at this age, by the mercy of Prabhupada, we have come to know about the story of Prahlada Maharaj. But in Dwapara Yuga, when things were much purer, Yudhishthira Maharaj is hearing for the first time the pastime of Hiranyakashipu from Narada Muni. All the details, the questions that he's asking, clarifications that he's seeking, it has not been discussed before. Of course, he might have had some idea, but the level of detail with which Narada Muni is explaining, he has never heard before. And at that time, this is after Mahabharata is over, it has been described by Prabhupada that at that time, Krishna himself was a great-grandfather, close to 125 years of age. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, approximately same. So 125-year-old person, 100-year-old to 125-year-old person, and he's hearing these details. That is when he's coming to know about these things. We are so fortunate that we are getting these details at a much earlier stage in our life. So it is very much obligated upon us to make use of this knowledge that we are getting. So Narada Muni continues that Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to kill Vishnu, right, with his trident. He had made this plan. He's going to kill him, and he's going to suck his blood and thereby pacify his brother. So How is he going to do this? Not that he's going to take the trident and directly attack Vishnu. No. He had a much more refined and stronger plan. So he thinks that Hiranyaksha has been lost, has lost the battle to Vishnu. If I directly go and challenge Vishnu, same thing may happen to me. How can I assure, how can I guarantee that I will win? So he hatches a plan. He starts to create a plan of how to develop yoga siddhis. How to, using yoga siddhis, how to become free from the effect of old age. How to become free from the effect of other diseases, and how one can become very, very small or assume a gigantic body. So these are Ashta Siddhis or Yoga Siddhis of Anima, Laghima, etc. And he wanted to achieve these Yoga Siddhis, including the power to die at a moment of one's choice. So one of the Yoga Siddhis is that one can leave the body at the moment of choosing. When you want to die, you can die. So he wanted to do this, and he wanted to become the undisputed king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka. He wanted to be the undisputed king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka. So what he did, he went to a hill called Mandara Hill, and he started performing severe austerities. So what he did was, he stood up on the ground. Imagine this is the ground. And he stood up on the ground like this, with just the tip of his toes on the ground. And he was standing like this, just tip of the toes, hands up, arms upwards, and looking at the sky. Like this, just tip of the toes. This is one of the more difficult yogasanas to be performed for longer, extended periods of time. But he took up this most difficult position to perform his austerities. And he did not drink water. He did not eat food for days and days and days, months. Months turned into years. Actually, what happened was, as he started progressing, there was a tremendous amount of fire or energy or heat that emanated from the top of his head, from the tip of his hairs, from all the hair that he had. From the tip of his hair, there was a tremendous amount of heat that generated, that engulfed the entire universe. It appeared to people that the sun, like the glow of the sun, it has been described, the glow of the sun at the time of dissolution of the universe. It appears that even back then, our Vedic literature, they talk about the concept of glow of a sun at the time of dissolution of the universe. Now, of course, modern scientists have a theory that how the sun, when it's end of its life, is going to happen. It is going to become a giant red star, what is called a red giant, and it will explode, devouring all the planets in the solar system. So this may be the latest modern theory, but it is not a new theory. In fact, there is already a description of what happens to sun at the time of dissolution, how the kind of a malefic, very dangerous looking heat that comes out of the sun at the time of dissolution. That kind of heat was coming from Hiranyakashipu. And this was disturbing all of the rivers and the oceans. They were all getting agitated. They were boiling. The oceans were boiling. The rivers were getting boiled, and the stars and the planets, they were moving out of their orbit. The power of his austerities was so much that even the planetary systems were shaking. They were wobbling. They were moving out of their orbit. So all the devatas who are responsible for administering the affairs of the universe, they became very much disturbed by this, and they go to Lord Brahma, and they pray to Lord Brahma that, oh Lord, there is actually they did not pray to Lord Brahma, I'm sorry. They went to Brahma Loka, and then they put a petition in front of Lord Brahma. The prayer, there is a different prayer that comes later, but at this point they did have a petition to Lord Brahma that, oh Lord Brahma, if you think it is appropriate, can you please help us in this matter? Because we are not able to tolerate this severe heat that is coming from this demon. Please do something about it. So then Lord Brahma says, all right, I will see what I have to do. Then Lord Brahma climbs on top of his swan, that is a Vahana for Brahma, and then he flies down to the Mandara mountain, the valley. It's actually the valley where it's a valley of Mandara mountain, where Hiranyakashipu is performing these severe austerities. And then at first, when he goes there, he says, where is this heat coming from? Because I cannot see it. There is no demon here. Nobody is doing anything. And then he sees more closely. Actually, the entire body of Hiranyakashipu was covered by an anthill and by grass. There was grass around it, and there were bamboo shoots that were growing around. So all of this was around. Of course, they were all dead grass, but over in because there was so much heat coming. But when he goes down and removes that anthill, he finds that this Hiranyakashipu's body had completely gone away. There is no flesh. There is no blood. There is no muscle. There's no skin. Only bones. There's only bones. But he's still standing like this with his bones. And what had happened was, over time, and I'll come in a minute to tell you how much time exactly it was, the ants had started eating his flesh because he had been so still. He was so still that the ants thought that this is a dead body, and they had started eating that body. And in spite of all the flesh going away, Hiranyakashipu was still standing just with his bones. So Brahma was, he touched him, and then he addressed him, and then he said, look, this is such a wonderful austerity you performed. Even your senior Bhrigu Muni has not performed such austerities. So actually, when flesh goes from the body, the life air, there are different kinds of air. There are 5 kinds of air in the body. Is it 6? 6 kinds of airs. Prana, Apana, Samana, Udana. Like this, there are 6 kind of, is it 5? 6 or 5? 9. Oh, okay. So one of them is Pranavayu. Is one of these airs are circulating in the body, and the spirit soul is balanced within these airs. So as by the Ashtanga Yoga process, by a material process of regulating the movement of this air, the yogi is able to control the desires of the spirit soul and gain mastery over himself. So this is a Ashtanga Yoga process. So Hiranyakashipu had so much mastery over that process that he was able to control the life airs within his bones, which is next to impossible, because bones, air will just escape, right? If there's no flesh, there's nothing holding it, it's going to escape. But he was able to do it. And so Brahma was very much impressed with him. And he said, all right, you can ask me any boon that you want, and I'll try to fulfill your wish. So at that point, he took his kamandalu, and there was some water, took some water from his kamandalu and sprinkled on Hiranyakashipu. So as soon as he sprinkled that water, immediately Hiranyakashipu got the strength to get up. And of course, he was already standing. He got out of that anthill location, and his body became fully nourished, and he got a body that is resembling molten gold. Beautiful, lustrous body, by just the water that was sprinkled by Lord Brahma. And his limbs became so strong that they were stronger than, they could withstand the striking of a thunderbolt. So they became stronger than Indra's Vajra. They could withstand that. They became so strong. And he had a beautiful, lustrous body, and he got all of that. Just like a very, very young person, young, energetic, strong man. And then he offers wonderful prayers to Lord Brahma out of his gratitude to Brahma. And then he asks his boons. he says, and here are the boons that he asks for. Just observe this, and then we'll see what happens to these boons. He says, O my Lord, O best of the givers of benediction, if you will kindly grant me the benediction I desire, please let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. Any of the living entities. So now that covers every single living entity in the universe, because all the living entities in the universe are coming from Brahma. Brahma is the creator of all living entities. So that pretty much covers everybody in the universe. Let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. Grant me that I shall not die within any residence or outside any residence, during the daytime or at night, nor on the ground or in the sky. Grant me that my death not be brought by any being other than those created by you, nor by any weapon, nor by any human being or animal. Just look at how he has done it. First he says, please let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. Then he says, grant me that my death not be brought by any being other than those created by you. So now, other than the beings created by Brahma, who are there? Who are the remaining? Huh? No, there's one more. There is one more being not created by Brahma other than the Lord.
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
There is one. So one person.
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva. Yes. Okay. And then there's one more. Lord Shiva I counted as around Vishnu Tattva, like that. But yeah.
The Supreme Lord himself.
Created by Brahma. Comes out of Brahma. Supreme counted. Then Lord Brahma himself. Lord Brahma himself is not created by Brahma. So Lord Brahma himself is another person, right? He's not created by Brahma. So Hiranyakashipu is very confident that Brahma won't kill me. Brahma only has given me all these powers. He's giving me the benediction. Where is Brahma going to kill me? But he was worried about Vishnu. So he wanted to make sure that Lord Vishnu does not kill him. So he's asking the benediction from Brahma that whoever you create should not kill me, and whoever you have not created, that person also should not kill me. Like this he is asked. Now, then he says, he further goes, that nor by any weapon, nor by any human being or animal, grant me that I shall not meet death from any entity, living or non-living. Grant me further that I not be killed by any demigod or demon, or by any great snake from the lower animals, lower planets. Since no one can kill you in the battlefield, you have no competitor. Therefore, grant me the benediction that I too may have no rival. Give me sole lordship over all the living entities and presiding deities, and give me all the glories obtained by that position. Furthermore, give me all the mystic powers attained by long austerities and the penance of yoga, practice of yoga, for these cannot be lost at any time. So he's asking for all the yoga siddhis, and he's asking complete dominion, proprietorship, and he's asking for control. He wants to be the controller of all the living entities, all the planetary systems, everything. In other words, he wants to become equal to Brahma. So this is the boon that he asks. And Brahma, what does Brahma say? Brahma says, look, what you're asking, ordinarily people cannot get. But just look at what austerities you've done. The kind of austerities that you've done are not ordinary. So I shall give you what you want. He gave the boon. Now, just notice that one of the boons that he has given, that he cannot be killed by somebody not created by me, actually is not a boon that he can keep, because he has no control over Lord Vishnu. Brahma has no control over Lord Vishnu. But still he has given that boon. Very interesting that he's given this boon. So now let us see what happens after that. So with this, we come to the next part. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. So we saw that he became the king. We saw that he had a plan for immortality. We saw in the beginning that the Lord is equal to everyone. Now we see that Hiranyakashipu, how he terrorizes the universe. Now he has become this powerful person. Then what does he do? So he became the conqueror of the entire universe. And then he conquered all the planets, all the lokas, upper planetary systems, lower planetary systems, everybody, including Yamaraja. Yamaloka was also conquered by him. So Yamaraja also had to offer obeisances to and listen to Hiranyakashipu. Not only that he conquered, not only that he defeated, but he took all their powers into himself. It is not that he allowed them to function. A lot of times there will be a king who will come and conquer, and then he'll say, all right, you continue to rule, just give me some taxes. Hiranyakashipu did not do that. He said, I don't care what happens to you. Now I have got all your powers. So he took away the powers of all these devatas. Directly he was supervising. So he went to Indraloka, and there he went to Indra's palace. There was a beautiful, famous garden called Nandana Garden. And there he was enjoying, and there's a beautiful description of the palace as well. Palace was architected by Vishwakarma, and how the steps of Indra's residence, they were all made of coral, and the floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were made of crystal, and the seats, all the asanas, the simhasanas, whatever they were there, they were all bedecked with pearls. And the ladies were so beautiful, and they would walk around, their ankle bells will be tinkling, the sound will be coming. And so such a beautiful, serene atmosphere that the devatas could not enjoy. They were always afraid, because Hiranyakashipu was a new king there, and they were very much oppressed. And Hiranyakashipu would chastise the devatas wherever he could. He would bully them, like a high school bully. Wherever he finds somebody, hey, come here, and he'll jump. He will do some bullying like that. So needlessly, he will bully the devatas. They were in a very pitiable condition, and so they were all had to be very much subservient to them. So then what happened was that all the yagnas that were being followed by people, whatever little bit was being done, because by the time Hiranyakashipu had left, he had gone, the demons were of course still tormenting the people, but to whatever degree little bit of sacrifices were happening, they were all not given to the devatas. Hiranyakashipu will take it for himself. So what happened was then all the planetary systems, they became so much afraid of Hiranyakashipu that they started becoming very, very obedient. It is described very paradoxically that once Hiranyakashipu became the king, the rivers started flowing abundantly with water, because the rivers were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. The river Devata, who are all presiding deity of the rivers, are flowing when the presiding deity wants the river to flow. So the presiding deity of the rivers, they were so much afraid of Hiranyakashipu that the rivers were flowing abundantly. The trees were bearing a lot of fruits. The land was producing a lot of crop. Very rich crop was coming, because the devatas who were responsible for all these things were so afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Everything was happening. Them pakka, perfectly it was happening. Much more than before, because they were so afraid of their life of Hiranyakashipu. But then Hiranyakashipu became more and more proud. He started, you would think that now he was becoming happier and very, very happy because of this. But actually it is described that because of this, he was extremely dissatisfied. He started doing sense gratification so much. He started engaging after all this austerities. By the way, the austerity lasted for 1,000 celestial years. The austerities that Hiranyakashipu performed, it lasted for 1,000 celestial years. And just to give you an idea how long a celestial year, 1 year on earth is equal to 1 day in celestial day. In the higher planetary systems, 1 day in the higher planetary system is 1 year on earth. This is when somebody passes away, the oblations, the Shraddha ceremony is performed once in a year, right, on the anniversary day. That anniversary day when you perform the oblation, you are thinking that you're giving Krishna Prasadam to to the ancestors in the Pitruloka once in a year. But actually it is going to them once in a day, once in their day. So every day they get Krishna Prasad. So this 1 year of earth is equal to 1 day of celestial planets. Like that, for 1,000 celestial years, like the 360 days, there is 1 year of their time. So 360 days means 360 years here. So 360 years is 1 year there. So 360,000 earth years he has performed austerities. So after he has come out, I think his senses are very much agitated. So he started indulging in sense gratification as if he was not before, even more extremely. Because of that, it is described he was extremely dissatisfied. And instead of controlling his senses, he became the servant of his senses. So therefore, as to the extent that we give in, the extent to we become Go Dasa, to that extent our lives will be full of dissatisfaction. So the way to become satisfied actually is to become Goswami. It is the beginning of the instructions given in Nectar of Instructions. So like this, there was a long period of time where Hiranyakashipu was ruling the higher planets, and he became very proud, and he started transgressing the laws of nature, regulations, everything. He just did what he pleased. Absolutely no control. And this, what happened was the Devatas became very much terrorized by his activities, and they approached the Supreme Lord, and they were praying to the Supreme Lord. And how did they pray? So it is given here. Tasyai namostu kasthaya yatratma haririshwaraha yadgatva nanivartante shanta sanyasino amalaha itite samyatatmat manaha samahita dhiyo amalaha upatasthur rishikesham vinidhravayu bhojanaha. So here, tasyai namostu kasthaya. Tasyai kasthaya means in that direction where the Supreme Lord resides. Yatratma Hari Ishwaraha. So in that direction where the Supreme Lord resides, we are offering our obeisances. Yat gatva nivartante. Now the question is that the Lord is present in all directions. What direction are they offering obeisances? Let us see the translation. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life and the great saintly persons go, and from which, having gone, they never return. Without, so like this, they began worshipping. And okay. So this Prabhupada explains in the purport of this verse that actually what is being referred to here, the direction where Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, although the Lord is situated everywhere, they are actually referring to the holy dham where the Lord is situated. Even though Hiranyakashipu had complete control over the entire universe, he did not control the holy dhams. He had no control over the holy dhams where the pure devotees lived. So it says, where the purified souls in the renounced order of life and the great saintly persons go, and from which, having gone, they never return. So this is referring to holy dhams. So Prabhupada is saying, therefore, that as even today, if we go to a holy dham and the temple where Krishna's message is being spread, the institutions established by Srila Prabhupada, they are holy dham. It is Vaikuntha dham. When you come to the temple, you're outside the purview of demoniac influences. You cannot be influenced by demoniac. They have no jurisdiction over this area. So even today we can go, come to the temple, take advantage. We can go for pilgrimage. We can go to Vrindavan, take advantage of that. Or simply, if you come to the temple or at your home itself, if you have practice sadhana and perform that, that is also that area where they cannot have influence. But because we do not have that, the vision to see the Lord as a Lord, in fact, we see it as a stone or a wood. And therefore, it is recommended that in the association of devotees in the temple, you can have better understanding of the Lord. Then, hearing these wonderful prayers, what happens? We have heard of Narasimha Dev Bhagwan's appearance. Narasimha Dev breaks a pillar breaks open a pillar and comes out of the pillar. Right? We have heard that. So in the Narasimha Dev Bhagwan's pastimes, is that the first appearance of the Lord? It turns out that is not the first appearance. The Lord appears once before that in this pastime. But this time he appears in a very different form. Can anyone guess in what form the Lord appears in response to the prayers by these devatas? Anyone online?
Mohini.
Mohini. Okay. Any other guesses? Anyone here? Temple? Lord, yes?
400.
400 Vishnu form?
Yes, Prabhu.
It turns out that the Lord appears in the sound form. He doesn't appear in a visual form. He appears in a sound form. Sorry about that. A trick question. And then he makes wonderful announcements. He says, Tesham avirabhudvani arupa megha nishvana sannadayanti kakubha sadhunam abhayankari. So the abhayankari is all the devotees, they become fearless by hearing that sound. Then there appeared before them a transcendental sound vibration emanating from a personality not visible to materialize. The voice was as grave as the sound of a cloud, and it was very encouraging, driving away all fear. And the sound, what did the sound say? The Lord says, Ma bhaishta vibuddha shreshtaha sarvesham bhadra astuvaha mad darshanam hi bhutanam sarva shreyo papatyate jnatam etasya dauratmyam daiteya apasadasya yat tasya shantim karishyami kalam tavat pratikshata. So he says that ma bhaishta, do not be afraid. Vibuddha shreshtaha sarvesham bhadra astuvaha. So let there be all auspiciousness for you. Mad darshanam hi bhutanam. Just by perceiving me, just by seeing me, all the living entities, sarva shreyo becomes highly beneficial for everybody. The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows. O best of the learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers. For these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all the living entities. I know all about the activities of Hiranyakashipu and shall certainly and surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time. So in the purport of this verse, Prabhupada says that here the very important word is Mad Darshanam. And Prabhupada says generally people are very, very eager to see the Lord. But here the Lord is saying Mad Darshanam by for these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. By become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers. So Mad Darshanam, being able to see here, what does it mean? Actually, it is perceiving the Lord. And Prabhupada says that in the purport, one very, very powerful verse, line, performing Kirtana and hearing the vibration of the sound, Hare Krishna, is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Seeing directly. This Mad Darshanam, it happens simply by hearing Hare Krishna and performing Kirtana. One must realize this position and then one will be able to understand the absolute nature of Lord's activities. So if at all you're wondering that, all right, even a demon like Hiranyakashipu was able to see the Lord face to face in the form of Lord Narasimha Dev, but what about me? I have so many demons inside me. Then what about my deliverance? So here is the answer for that. The Mad Darshanam for that formula has been given simply by chanting Hare Krishna. Hearing of Hare Krishna is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. It is not an indirect perception, it's a direct perception. And then further the Lord says, Yada deveshu vedeshu goshu vipreshu sadhushu dharme maicha vidvesha sava asu vinashyati. So one who is inimical envious of the devatas, deveshu, yada deveshu, vedeshu, the Vedas, and goshu, the cows, vipreshu, brahmanas, sadhushu, the sadhushu, Vaishnavas, sadhushu has been translated as Vaishnavas. Dharme mai cha vidveshaha, that is envious, those who are envious of these people. Sa va ashu vinashyati, that is, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. So now Prabhupada says in the purport here, look at the civilization today. Are we in the civilization of the world? Are we cow protectors or cow killers? What is the civilization that is there today? It's a cow killing civilization. The civilization is doing systematic slaughter of cows all over the world. So what is going to happen to the civilization? He and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. So there is no doubt that this current civilization is not going to last very long. It is already destined to be killed simply by these utterances of the Supreme Lord. He is already foretelling that if anybody is going to be killing, become envious to cows, Brahmanas, Vaishnavas, religious principles, and ultimately of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. So, and then he says this prediction, and then with this we will wind up today's session. We'll continue tomorrow. He is now announcing the arrival of Prahlad Maharaj. And he says that when Hiranyakashipu starts to hurt his own son, Prahlada, then I will come and I will kill him. So what does he exactly say? Nirvairaya prashantaya swasutaya mahatmane prahradaya yada druhyed dhanishyeapi varorjitam. Now this is tying back to the boon given by Lord Brahma. Vara urjitam. Vara means boon. Urjitam is Brahma. Api varorjitam means although Brahma has given a boon of protection, but when Hiranyakashipu starts to durkhed, starts to hurt his own son, Swasutaya, and what kind of a son is this? Nirvairaya, non-envious, Prashantaya, very peaceful, Mahatmane, great devotee. Such a Prahlada, when he starts hurting, then I will come and I will kill him. When Hiranyakashipu teases the great devotee Prahlada, his own son, who is peaceful and sober and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. So saying this, the voice disappears. So in this there are these words, Nirvairaya Prashantaya Mahatmane, and we just discussed Api Varorjitam also. So these are the important qualities of a devotee: non-envious, very peaceful, great personality. In fact, there is a verse also, Yasyasya Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana Samasta Sarve Guna Samasta Suraha. Sarve Gunaihi Samasta Suraha. Samasate Suraha. Yes. So, Yasyasya Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana. That is one who is a pure devotee of the Lord. Sarvair Gunair, all the good qualities. Samasate Suraha, of all the devatas are all embedded in such a person. So that is the position of Prahlad Maharaj, pure devotee. So all the great qualities are all there. And then after this, Narad Muni continues, and then he describes the wonderful qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. There is further description of what happens to Prahlad Maharaj. Of course, by hearing these assuring words of the Supreme Lord, all the devatas become very much reassured, and they go back to their duties. And even though they are anxious, but they are confident that Hiranyakashipu is about to be killed. And then in due course of time, Prahlad Maharaja is born. Hiranyakashipu has 4 children. They are all very nice children. But among them, Prahlad Maharaja is the best among them. And there is a wonderful description of Prahlad Maharaj's qualities, his activities, his teachings, and how Hiranyakashipu's interactions with Prahlada and how he torments him. These aspects and many more interesting, wonderful insights from the pastimes of Narasimha Dev Bhagwan. We will see them tomorrow. So please remember to dial in tomorrow also for this class. With this, I'll stop and see if you have any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have one question actually. We should definitely pray to Supreme Lord, right? Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. But there are some devotees who definitely worship Lord Shiva, right? We have so many other devotees, right? So similarly, I didn't see anywhere like Lord Brahma. No one is worshipping him, right? Why is that the case?
No, they're worshipping demons. Right now, we just saw the example of Hiranyakashipu is worshipping. There are so many asuras who worship Brahma. But the point is that what has been brought out in the purports of these pastimes is in fact the very example of how these devatas they are unable to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And when there is the trouble, they go to the Supreme Lord. He's the only one who can protect. And therefore, it has been stated that because Supreme Lord is the one who's ultimately protecting all the devatas also, why not take shelter of the Supreme Lord? And yes, there are people at different ages, different stages. We don't know all the people of the world, right? We don't know all the people of background. Yeah, thank you. So certainly, I think there may be some pastimes where there is a reason for why there are lesser number of Brahma worshippers, but in the history there are certainly have been various categories of devata worshippers, demigod worshippers, out of which Brahma has also been worshipped very regularly by many asuras. So there's a question in the chat. There is a question in the chat. Since Lord Vishnu is not the creation of Brahma, then how did Narasimha Dev satisfy all the conditions promised by Brahma when he killed Hiranyakashipu? The answer is he did not. He did not satisfy all the conditions. This one condition he did not satisfy because it was outside the jurisdiction of Brahma to have given that. So that's why the word api, that although Brahma has given the boon of protection, still I will kill him. So when he says that, actually it is like doesn't matter what boon Brahma has given. In fact, there's a very detailed description of that particular verse. Thank you for asking the question, because there in the purport, now I remember that Prabhupada explains that once a person commits a Vaishnava aparadh, that is like a mad elephant offense. Any pious credit, any kind of a boon that you might have received prior to that, it is gone. It has no effect. Any kind of a pious activity or accumulation of pious credit, right? You might have done a lot of punya. Austerities, you might have performed a lot of austerities, a lot of good karma you might have accumulated. The moment a person commits a Vaishnava aparadh, that is out of the window. It has no more any consequence. So at that point, Supreme Lord said that it doesn't matter what boon Brahma has given. I will come and I'll kill him, finished. But I will do that when he starts to torment and tease his son, who's a pure devotee. Now, of course, still in spite of that, he does maintain all the other conditions to the extent that Brahma had jurisdiction over. Brahma has jurisdiction over several things. And all those conditions, the Supreme Lord maintained because he wants to glorify his own devotee. Brahma is a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore, he has kept all those conditions, except the one which Brahma had no jurisdiction over.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. what are the aparadh that we have to take care, like Vaishnava aparadh?
Vaishnava Prad. Vaishnava Prad means offending a Vaishnava. The first offense against the holy name. To blaspheme a devotee who has dedicated his life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. That is Vaishnava Prad. So we cannot, in our mind also, we should not blaspheme such a person who has taken shelter of Prabhupada, who is a Vaishnava. And even though there may be some apparent shortcomings, material shortcomings in such a person, that is our defective vision. The Lord provides the intelligence based on what is needed for that person to advance in devotional service. So what that person is doing, we have no idea about that. Because he's being guided by the Lord, by the spiritual master in his heart. Yes. Lord Vishnu is independent of everything. That's right. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, Prabhu? Yaitendra Prabhu? I mean, my answer was a little superficial, I guess, because there is no, we cannot enumerate every offense. No, there are so many ways creatively. That is one area where we are experts.
Yes.
We don't require any coaching on offending. All,
Yes, there are so many offenses that we have to take care.
but
And-
specifically, it is
Yes.
judgmental, being judgmental. That's the main thing.
Yes,
Being judgmental.
especially we have
The
to
starting
take care
point of
of
the subsequent offenses all come from the being judgmental of another Vaishnava.
Yes, Prabhu.
Comes from enviousness. I think there are other, that day we saw the different kinds of offenses that we create, that we have. The people that are superior to us, we are envious, we want that position. The people that are equal to us, the Vaishnavas who are equal to us, we want to compete with them. So we have a feeling of spardha. The people who are superior, it is envy. The people who are subordinate, because there are some Vaishnavas who may be newer, they are also Vaishnavas. That is, somebody just started chanting Hare Krishna Maharaj. He's also Vaishnava. Yesterday he started chanting, today is a Vaishnava. But now he's new, we are thinking that I'm experienced. So what is our attitude towards that person? How are we offensive? We are bullying that person. We bully that person. In some way, we try to boss over, basically. It may not be very obvious bullying. Sometimes it is obvious. Sometimes it may be not subtle ways of bullying. In our mind, we may be thinking, oh, it's okay. And if you ask some 3 questions, you'll say, Arey, what is this? Yesterday only you came asking all these questions. Just have patience. Like in our mind, we'll be laughing at him. So these are the offenses.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, let us come in front of the camera. Raise your hands. Repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare
Mantra
Hare.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Jai,
Prahlada Narasimha Dev Bhagavani ki, Jagat Guru Srimad Prabhupada ki. Sai Gaur.
Jai. Hari Bol. Oh, just Hari Bol.
Oh,
Hari
just,
Bol. He does that. He actually does that.
look, there is one more baby here in the camera.
Yeah, I think Ankit Soni Prabhu's baby.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see you all tomorrow morning for Bhagavatam class and also tomorrow evening for continuation of this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.